Oh, what a beautiful heart! Mifune's Life of Mnhoumatu 1958 Toho Pictures. I think the meaning of lawless in Life of Mnhoumatu can be interpreted as a hopelessly violent person. However, this is only one side of the story. This is the story of a rickshaw driver who is quick to fight, hates crooked things, is arrogant, and has a kind heart. So even though this movie is the story of a rough and tumble man, it's a movie that moves you so much that you can't stop crying. The original author is Shunsaku Iwashida, and 4 movies have been made, but the most famous are the 1943 version starring Sumisaburo Bando, and the 1958 version starring Toshiro Mifune. Both films were written by Mansaku Itami and directed by Hiroshi Inagaki, with the first film being in black and white and the second in color. The movie that Mifune of the World introduced this time was made in 1958. It was such a masterpiece that it won the Grand Prix at the 1958 Venice Film Festival. The story takes place in 1897, 29 years after the Meiji Restoration. This is Kokura in Kyushu. Rickshaw driver Tomishima Matsugoro. Toshiro Mifune was famous for his violence. One day, at his entrance, he asks, "Can you show me a play?" When his intention to take a peek is refused, he gets angry and pays his rickshaw buddy Kumakichi, Haruo Tanaka, to go to a playhouse, drink sake and roast garlic over charcoal, then fan it with a fan to make the smell of garlic travel far away. It's completely disgusting. The people in the hut complained to Matsugoro about the smell, and a fight soon broke out. The theater became chaotic, involving the assembled audience. The person who appears to mediate is Zyuzo Yuki Chishukasa, a chivalrous man who runs the local area. How is he going to make amends for causing trouble to unrelated ordinary people? Yuki said quietly. He didn't notice at all. Matsugoro's face shows that he is sorry. I apologize. Matsugoro obediently fell to the ground on the spot. Although Matsugoro is a violent man, Yuki is impressed by Matsugoro's sincere personality. It was the night of the Autumn Festival, when the flag of Japan's great victory in the Russian War was raised. One day Matsugoro saw a boy who had fallen from a tree and was crying. "Hey kid, don't cry, the boy has injuries to his head and legs." Matsugoro took the boy home. That was the home of Army Captain Kotaro Yoshioka. His beautiful wife Ryoko Hideko Takamine saw her son Toshio and asked Matsugoro to take him to the hospital. Matsugoro and Ryoko take care of Toshio. When Yoshiko tries to give Matsugoro money as compensation for caring for Toshio, Matsugoro says no, it's not business, and Matsugoro leaves in a hurry. That Matsugoro. When Kotaro Yoshioka heard this from Ryoko, he burst out laughing and said that lawless Matsu, Wahaha Muhamatsu, who once carried excellency, was asked if he knew where excellence was going, and he answered, "I know where you are going," acting as if he were talking to a friend. It became a well-known story among Yoshioka's comrades. Kotaro Yoshioka invited Matsugoro to his home and gave him a warm welcome. Matsugoro gets drunk and sings his oiwake. Yoshioka tells Matsugoro that if he was a military man, he would definitely reach the rank of Major General. No. Matsugoro replied that if I was a military man, I would rise to the rank of general. And we both laughed out loud. After watching this movie, I thought that if Matsugoro had had a good mentor, he would have become a man of character, who could become not only a major general, but also the prime minister. Perhaps due to military training in the rain, Kotaro Yoshioka's health deteriorated and he suddenly passed away. Ryoko said in front of his grave, "What I'm worried about is that Toshio isn't as strong physically or mentally as his father." It's okay, Matsugoro says he is still a small child. Please train this child when the time comes. Ryoko asked Matsugoro. In this way, Matsugoro came to visit the Yoshioka family from time to time. Toshio Yoshioka also gradually began to develop feelings for Matsugoro. Toshio was always crying, and Matsugoro was told strongly, "Men shouldn't cry like you. Have you ever cried?" When Toshio asked Matsugoro, Matsugoro answered as follows, "I wasn't a crying child like you, but I only cried once when I was little." Matsugoro told Toshio a story from the past. 8-year-old Matsugoro, who had been scolded by his stepmother since the morning, walked alone to meet his father, who was working in the mountains 16 kilometers away. On the way, he is offered udon noodles by a customer at a tea shop. Kichijiro Ueda, which makes him regain his composure. And as he continues walking, it becomes dark. The road and the mountains had an eerie feeling that something strange might appear. At last, the light of his father's hut came into view. As soon as Matsugoro entered the hut, he hugged his father Yoshio Kasuji and burst into tears. Today is the autumn sports day at Kokura Elementary School. Matsugoro was also watching the sports day with Yoshioka and his son. Matsugoro participated in the 500-meter race. His legs and hips are strong, having been trained on a rickshaw. In response to Toshio's loud cheers, Matsugoro finished in first place. Ryoko thought that Toshio's happy expression made her smile. Toshio, who had a shy personality, became an active child who even stood on stage and sang in elementary school plays. At that time, Ryoko's older brother, Nobuo Nakamura, tells her about her remarriage. Ryoko politely declined. But Matsugoro, who happened to be in her garden to erect a carp streamer pillar, heard about this, and he had mixed feelings. This was because while Matsugoro was coming in and out of the Yoshioka family almost every day, his feelings for Ryoko were growing. Time passes and the year is 1914. Toshio Kenji Kasahara, a fourth-year student at Kokura Junior High School, is invited by his classmate to get into a fight with students from another school. Ryoko was worried and ran to Matsugoro. Kasagoro says, "I see, he's finally become a young man who can fight." Matsugoro was secretly happy as he began to see something white on his head. He's okay. I won't let him get hurt." Matsugoro rushes to the scene. The battle had already begun on the scene. Matsugoro was watching from behind a tree, but when Toshio was thrown away, Toshio instinctively walked away. "Oh, uncle, help me." Toshio tells him that this is my way of fighting, and Matsugoro jumps into the fight and goes wild. Toshio left Kokura to attend high school. Ryoko says this to Matsugoro, who sees him off on the train. She said she felt lonely. Matsugoro says that in the past, he used to say nice things to cute children, such as letting them travel, but Matsugoro is the one who misses him the most. That's because now that Toshio is gone, there is no excuse to go to the Yoshioka house. You know this feeling all too well. Ever since Matsugoro rescued a boy who had fallen from a tree and was injured, he has been visiting the Yoshioka family almost every day, and has been treating Toshio more like parent and child, and has always watched over Toshio with great expectations for his future. Matsugoro began to feel the same loneliness he felt when his daughter got married, and no one was home when he returned home, as if a hole had been left in his heart. The historical background also helped a lot, as he was just an uneducated car hitter. But after he helped an injured boy, he realized that he had never fulfilled his words, probably because he wanted to entrust Toshio with his indescribable dream. Unlike his father, Toshio was able to gain hope for his future just by having Matsugoro, who was free-spirited and had a big scale, by his side. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Toshio was raised in a better environment than anyone else in that era. It cannot be denied that a child's life and dreams are determined by the kind of people around them. A good example of this is that Mencius mother, who is famous for her teachings of Mengmu Senchien, moved many times, because the environment was the most important thing in raising her child Mencius into a fine human being. The shortest way to learn something is to learn from a master in that field, and you can acquire the theories and techniques of that master. In swordsmanship, Munenori Yajo, who had a technique called Yajo Shinkadrayo, served as a swordsmanship instructor for the Tokugawa shogunate, and was said to have greatly improved the level of swordsmanship of the Tokugawa family. The same can be said, in this sense, for Toshio, who is somewhat of a quiet person. Someone as dynamic and profound as Mnhoumatu would have been the most suitable to serve as his mentor. Although Toshio lost his father early, I believe he found the most suitable mentor. During the summer vacation of 1917, Toshio brought back a teacher, Yoshio Tsuchiya, who wanted to listen to Gyan Taiko at Kokura. The venue was lined with shops selling shaved ice, cotton candy, and other items, and many people crowded the venue. Matsugoro, who came to see the Gyan festival with his widow's son and his master, saw someone playing the Gyan Taiko drum, and although he said that this was not the real way to play it, he decided to try imitating it. He goes on stage. Matsugoro plays the drum, and his mood gradually improves. This is Gyan Taiko's Nagaruchi, and this is Rampage. Matsugoro, wearing a headband and bare skin, continued to hit the drumsticks furiously. There was a mixture of complicated feelings, a mixture of love for Toshio and admiration for Ryoko. People were fascinated by Matsugoro's drums. I learned that the way drums are played has changed over time, and that tone and technique are also important. But there was a surprising story behind this. For Toshiro Mifune, this is the most exciting and exhilarating scene. But if Mifune's drumstick playing does not match even the slightest bit with the hayashi recorded earlier, his lie will be revealed. For this purpose, Mifune spent about 10 days learning techniques in earnest from Kabukiya Hayashi's Denji Tanaka, and also learned acrobatics from Watazo Hineiji. During the actual performance, he sang like a professional and received enthusiastic applause from the 500 extras. He was said to have been practicing drumming every day. The same goes for his lines, gestures, and conducting voice, but when you become a world-famous celebrity, it's unusual for him to rehearse when no one is watching. Director Hiroshi Inagaki uses close-ups of Matsugoro's rickshaw, whose wheels keep turning, to express the flow of time. This is the same image as Mnhoumatu, and it expresses the passage of time, the beauty of the spinning wheel, and the times. As Matsugoro pulls a rickshaw every day, Toshio becomes an adult, and Matsugoro's gray hair increases. There was something truly beautiful about it. Mifune's Matsugoro was in color, so I felt the limitless scope of art in the way director Inagaki photographed the rickshaw by shining a bright light on it and reflecting the light. The easiest way to express the passage of time with subtitles, such as 3 years later, is the easiest way to express the passage of time, and you don't have to worry about it. But director Inagaki appealed to the audience by depicting the passage of time as the rotation of the wheels of a rickshaw. He admired was the beauty of true art. On the night when fireworks scorched the sky over Kokura, Matsugoro came to the Yoshioka house. Ryoko attends to Matsugoro on the porch, but notices that Matsugoro is acting strange. Matsugoro looked like he was about to cry. Matsugoro knelt in front of Kitaro's photo that was displayed in his living room. He then turned to Ryoko and told her to spit it out. "Madam, I must have missed you." "What? What's going on?" Ryoko doesn't understand. "Why would you say that to spite Wheel? See each other again?" "Madam, my heart is dirty. I'm sorry." Matsugoro bowed deeply and left without even looking at Ryoko's face. I'm sure you can imagine what he means by saying, "My heart is dirty." Mifune's words in this movie are called dirty, but if you ask me, I think it's actually beautiful. It's natural for a man to fall in love with a woman, and a woman to fall in love with a man. But the good-natured and sincere Mnhoumatu doesn't know how to explain his feelings, so he expresses his feelings by saying that my heart is dirty. That's what he did. In this movie, Ryoko is portrayed as not being able to understand Mnhoumatu's feelings, but I felt this was a little unnatural. It was decided by the scriptwriter's expression alone. But the most appropriate gesture in this scene was for Ryoko to shed tears as she understood Mnhoumatu's feelings, and that may have comforted Mnhoumatu's heart. And since that day Matsugoro has not appeared in front of Ryoko, Matsugoro's disappointment at this moment was reflected in Mifune's hunched back, and his gray hair also showed his age, and made him look pitiful. Since Mifune's main role was that of a dashing and rampaging alley of justice, his silent performance brought tears to my eyes. By the way, this line, "My heart is dirty," is also quoted in Yaji Yamada's Atako, Wachoreyo when Torsen falls in love with someone else's wife. Matsugoro started drinking more than before. His admiration for Ryoko only grew stronger. When he met Kumakachi at a bar for the first time in a while, he was wearing a Yukigumi Hanten, and said he was married and had 2 children. Matsugoro spent his days drinking alcohol. His father also died from an alcohol-induced heart attack, so he worries that the same thing will happen to him. And a snow day, a drunk Matsugoro staggers down a snowy road with a sake bottle dangling from him. In the schoolyard of the elementary school that Toshio once attended, Matsugoro collapsed and did not move. Ryoko's face, Toshio's face, rickshaws, summer festivals, fights, Gion taiko drums, etc. come back to Matsugoro's mind like running lights. In Matsugoro's mind, he may have felt true happiness at the moment of his death. Looking back on the life he had lived for the sake of others, he was able to interact with good people. He must have thought he had nothing left to remember. His only regret was not being able to convey his love for Ryoko. Did the people of the Meiji era, like Matsugoro, feel sorry for causing trouble to the people they love? So they just kept quiet about it. I can't help but feel sorry for Matsugoro. Matsugoro had a pure heart. At the funeral of the deceased Matsugoro, Zyuzo Yuki learns that the many rewards he received from Ryoko have been kept untouched. What's more, there was 500 yen left in the bank book in the names of Yoshiko and Toshio. When I saw this scene, I couldn't stop crying, because he has such a beautiful heart. If it cost 500 yen in the Meiji era, it costs about 2 million yen today. What kind of man is this? Yuki can't hide his surprise. Isn't he a chivalrous guest, even surpassing Yuki? Makichi said. This is that kind of man. Yuki was impressed by Matsugoro's personality, and he continued by saying that he wondered if there was a man like him these days. How did you feel when you saw Matsugoro save 2 million yen for someone? Does such a person really exist? Matsugoro's occupation is a wheel puller for rich people. He is now a taxi driver. I don't know what a taxi driver's salary is today, but in the early 1900s he might have barely been able to make a living. Meanwhile, he not only quietly kept his savings for others, but also did not touch the money given to him by Ryoko. He was silently doing the exact opposite of what modern congressmen do. A member of the Diet is doing his job for the people, but he is hiding behind the scenes and doing things that are not for the people. Liberal Democratic Party members should watch this movie and reflect greatly. Matsugoro felt that even if he continued to work for others, if that person was happy, that would be the greatest happiness. Yes, Matsugoro is a great man with a noble heart. I mentioned earlier that Mnhoumatu is not just a major general, or a general, but someone who can even become the prime minister. The main reason for this was that he was a strong man, a rickshaw expert, who simply served people without worrying about profit or loss. There was a writer named Katsuchiro Kame who was active from 1940 to 1970. He says that a person who is suitable to be a member of the Diet is a master who has outstanding skills in that field. Why? I think this is because one's personality improves greatly in the process of pursuing technology. I'll give just one example. It was reported on NHK. Some of you may know Sen no Rakayu, but he is Senjinshitsu, the 15th head of the Urasank tea ceremony. He was born in 1923 and is currently 101 years old. He volunteered to join the Special Attack Corps, but apparently the war ended before his turn came. Apparently, he always made tea for the Special Attack troops to drink. This alone is impressive, but he continued to pursue this path even after the war and is said to be able to communicate the theme of world peace to the world even today. Although he is not a member of the Diet, he is an outstanding person who pursues the art of tea ceremony, while also appealing to the world for world peace. I will not go into details, but after listening to his words, I am now completely convinced of what Katsuchiro Kame was saying. Now in today's world, it may be difficult to meet people who live with such a clear mind. For that reason, Mifune's The Life of Mnhoumatu is a movie that is truly worth watching. Ryoko broke down in tears, overwhelmed by the sadness of losing Mnhoumatu so replaceable. She must have regretted not saying something kinder to him. And although Toshio is not on screen, I thought that if Toshio were here, he would be the one who would shed the most tears. That's because Mnhoumatu was an irreplaceable and good person to Toshio.